I enjoy stories with multiple characters in the same plotline, especially when it's 3 women. There is something so joyous and heartwarming about watching female friendships. So JC, how will you write a new 3-woman story using inspiration from these movies? I actually want to save Monte Carlo for a future episode on mistaken identity stories. So I need another 3-women movie. Oh my heart, I've just remembered the most wholesome example. Who remembers this movie?
Told you I was bad.
So JC, how will you write a new 3-woman story using inspiration from these movies? I will explore and break down how these movies balance multiple characters and how they twist the expectations for this type of story. But first, JC, what is a multiple character story? It is when 2 or more characters are equally important to the story and receive an equal share of having their points of view expressed. And usually this is reflected in equal screen time too. Multiple character movies include stories where the characters only meet at the end. But for this episode, I'm focusing on the type where 2 or more characters develop in the same structural plotline. This means the main characters influence one another's development and are affected by each other's structural progress too. Now, the multiple character story is not to be confused with an ensemble piece, which has its own rules and expectations. I may have an episode about this coming soon.
The only reason people are nice to me is because I have more money than God.
So JC, what are the expectations of multiple characters within the same plotline? Firstly, the characters share the same external goal, or they have individual goals that overlap or interact. Let's take a look. Reunited by the death of a college friend, 3 divorced women seek revenge on the husbands who left them for younger women. The First Wives Club follows Annie, Brenda, and Elise as they work towards a common goal of revenge. What makes this movie so good is the individual development that each character experiences that complement the external goal. Annie needs to learn to stand up for herself. She also needs to learn that as a woman, she does not have to be nice.
Oh! Do it, Annie. Get angry.
I couldn't. I know that I should, Leslie. I really do. It's just
Hit me.
Oh,
Rambo! Brenda needs to stop hiding behind her humor, and she must learn that motherhood is not the only source of her worth.
Mom.
Don't but mommy. Please, learn it. Don't shame me in the synagogue.
Elise needs to decide if she will judge herself based on youth and beauty.
Fill him up.
And she needs to learn to stop drinking to cope with these unrealistic beauty standards. So far in my assessment, these characters are equally important to the story, with regular coverage of the external goal and internal development. In my mind, the character's importance looks like this. Now, time to think about the story of a team of female African-American mathematicians who served a vital role in NASA during the early years of the US space program. Hidden Figures is based on a true story and follows Catherine, Dorothy, and Mary as they work toward getting a man in space. However, unlike the First Wives Club, where the character's individual development either directly affects the common goal or the common goal affects the individual development, Hidden Figures takes some liberties on this expectation. Let me explain. Catherine's point of view follows her as she becomes the first Black woman on the space task group and the discrimination she faces.
Don't embarrass me.
It also details her relationship with Jim.
You one tough customer, huh?
Mary's point of view follows her as she petitions for permission to attend the all-white Hampton High School to become a NASA engineer.
If you were a white male, would you wish to be an engineer?
I wouldn't have to. I'd already be one.
Dorothy's point of view follows her as she teaches herself programming to be promoted to supervise the IBM computer team.
What's your name again?
Dorothy Vaughn.
Dorothy Vaughn.
The individual plot lines, especially Dorothy's and Mary's, do not directly influence the external common goal of getting a man into space. Then how is this movie still so great? Because the individual growth of the three characters directly affects the common goal thematically. JC, what do you mean?
Every time we have a chance to get ahead, they move the finish line.
I just follow the rules around here, and I expect everyone who works for me to follow them as well.
The supporting plot lines of Mary and Dorothy contribute to the same theme as Catherine's plotline.
Well, I don't own pearls. Lord knows you don't pay colors enough to afford pearls.
So, each individual development explores the discrimination they face and how, because of this, their greatness demands acknowledgement.
I'm watching you two move on. Now, don't get me wrong. Any upward movement is movement for us all. Just isn't movement for me.
Doing this creates harmony for the movie. It also creates context between their points of view. An example is when Catherine learns they will no longer need her computing skills because the IBM computer is up and running. As the audience, we are devastated for Catherine, but we also want Dorothy to succeed with the IBM computer. So, Catherine may receive a bit more screen time, but Mary and Dorothy's stories have equal emotional weight, which is why I still define it as a multiple character story thus far. So the character's importance looks like this. Hot tip! If you're writing a multiple character story, consider what each character does for the other. What are the individual developments saying about the other? What subtext is emerging because of this? Last but not least, two teenage girls discover a mermaid in their beach club swimming pool. Aquamarine follows Claire, Haley, and Aquamarine as they try to get Raymond to fall in love with Aquamarine. Alongside this, Claire must learn that what happened to her parents shouldn't stop her from getting into the water.
Summer's almost over and you haven't gone in the water once. Once would be way too many times.
Haley must learn to face pain and support her mother's ambitions. And Aquamarine needs to learn that love isn't only romantic. Platonic love is equally magical. All 3 points of view are equally exciting and carry an equal amount of emotional weight. Because the movie is called Aquamarine, you'd think she'd be the protagonist. But I think Claire and Haley's point of view is slightly more important than Aquamarine's. So it looks like this. One is a little lower than the others. Why? Because of the common goal.
Raymond is the one I love.
Aquamarine wants Raymond to fall in love with her to prove to her father that love exists.
You have to help me get him to fall in love with me.
But Claire and Haley want Raymond to fall in love with Aquamarine so they get a wish as a reward for helping a mermaid. What these two actually want is for Haley not to move away. It is what gives us that slight separation of character importance.
Do you think he'll fall in actual love with her in 2 days?
He has to. It's her last hope.
So JC, what is another expectation of multiple characters within the same plotline? The characters are together for most of the movie. In addition to their internal journeys, this also allows for interpersonal development between characters. The First Wives Club is the perfect example of this. The first act is crucial in setting up each character individually. And because their experiences ring true to one another, it creates blanket sympathy for them from the audience. It means we are on board when they decide to take revenge on their husbands. We watch them work together, tear each other apart, and then come back with an even more meaningful goal.
This dinner is dedicated in loving memory to our very dear friend, Cynthia Swan.
Side note, this movie was one of my staples growing up, as you can see by the string of fake pearls.
I don't think so. I think it's just enough.
And I have to say, the scene when they call each other on their bullshit is hard to rewatch. Now that, as an adult, I know that society pits women against each other, it gave me such ick.
You are full of You were always jealous of me, even in college, because I was blonde and beautiful and talented.
I thought we were supposed to be helping each other, not ripping each other to shreds!
But the writers do it deliberately to show what can happen when women move past this social conditioning. It's so good. However, I do want to mention the importance Annie has. Elise and Brenda are already in the midst of a divorce, but Annie still clings to hope that her and her husband will get back together. This way, the audience gets to experience the gut-wrenching heartbreak when this happens. Ugh.
I want a divorce.
But we just made love! I mean,
Babe? Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Also, after things break down, we focus more on Annie's reaction.
It's just like it's all my fault. I'm just useless.
For the past few weeks, you've been a totally different person.
Yeah.
You stopped apologizing for yourself all the time.
It's no wonder they chose her character to narrate the story and be our way in. Therefore, it now looks like this. In Aquamarine, we spend the opening getting to know Claire and Hayley. Aquamarine only appears after the catalyst, the storm. Then there are only a few scenes when Claire and Hayley separate. The most notable is when they split up to find Aquamarine and Raymond.
You're gonna go stop Aqua, and I'm gonna go find Raymond, okay?
It's crucial to Claire and Hayley's individual development. Hayley admits why she's so scared and angry, and Claire puts herself out there to call Raymond on his Even when we focus on Aquamarine, we are reminded that Claire and Hayley are not that far away. Regarding interpersonal development between the three of them, Aquamarine imparts such wisdom that encourages Claire and Hayley to seize life.
I don't think they would have wanted you to be afraid of life. I think they would have wanted you to be friends with it.
Yeah.
But the more interesting stuff is between Claire and Hayley, like in this scene.
Hey.
Hi. I see you and Claire have made a new friend.
Yeah, how about that? Another person I get to say goodbye to.
And in this scene.
Maybe we could wish for something else. Maybe.
Something else? Like what? Like a new best friend?
Again, this is why I think the importance of characters looks like this. It's Claire and Hayley's story, but it still works as a multiple characters in the same plot line because of Aquamarine's impact on the story and structure. Now, Hidden Figures bends this expectation, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's not a multiple character story. Let's take a look and decide. There are a few scenes when Catherine, Dorothy, and Mary are together, and what I noticed was these scenes bring joy and humor.
You don't mess with Mrs. Vaughn.
Then I bet he's like that day and night.
Mary, it's Sunday.
Just as beautiful as you were back then.
Allowing for the interpersonal development between these characters to be low stakes lets it juxtapose the discrimination these women face in the scenes when they are not together. It also helps separate their home life from their work life, adding greater dimension to these characters and greater nuance to the theme.
The kids don't need to be watching
They need
this.
to see this. Everybody needs to see this.
Because the interpersonal development between these characters is low stakes, Catherine, Dorothy, and Mary have an antagonist each to compensate for this.
NASA's never ever given you guys your due. Having a couple extra degrees ain't gonna change that.
Catherine even has a love interest. Again, this is why I think the importance of the characters look like this. Hot tip. Think about the supporting characters in your story, as they can make or break the balance between your multiple main characters. Annie, Brenda, and Elise each have in their point of view a husband, younger woman, co-conspirator, and confidant. And there are even 3 major players to match Claire, Hayley, and Aquamarine. So JC, what is another expectation of multiple characters within the same plotline? This is when the turning points of your story equally impact the characters. In the first Wives Club, the plot has a single storyline where the 3 characters are equally affected by the turning points. The only difference is the examples I've already mentioned. Otherwise, every turning point creates an equal, if sometimes different reaction from Annie, Brenda, and Elise. When I say different, it's because we don't want our multiple characters to respond the same every single time. That would would be boring. What we want is reactions that make sense to the individual characters. Look at these little examples when the women break into Brenda's husband's new apartment. Just watch Brenda's reaction compared to the other two. And now look at Annie's reaction when they think they're about to get caught.
I got the files. I'm putting the files right here. Keep them away from the front door.
For a larger example, look at this.
We have just completely embarrassed ourselves. We've become exactly what the world thinks we are. We are the three witches.
After their big fight, Annie wants to disband their group, but Brenda and Elise want to aim higher and must convince Annie to join them.
We have to take our plan and expand it. First thing, we take care of our own guys because they really have it coming, and then we go global.
Talk.
Well, after you. Thank you.
Such rich storytelling. Mwah. So it still looks like this. Aquamarine also has a single storyline, where the three characters are equally affected by the turning points. Almost. Remember the different layers of the common goal? Where Aqua wants Raymond to fall in love with her, and where Claire and Haley want the mermaid's wish? Well, because of this, it makes sense that the major turning points hold slightly different meaning for Claire and Haley versus Aquamarine. The most significant difference occurs at the end of Act 2, a turning point that does not include Aquamarine. Haley decides that they should use their wish on something else and not jeopardize her mum's career.
You're so mad at the world that nobody but me even wants to talk to you.
So you're the one who's lived here your whole life? How do you figure that I'm your only friend?
This causes a rift between Haley and Claire, which only resolves during the finale. And of course, the closing scene sums up what this movie is truly about, Claire and Haley's friendship.
I'm gonna miss you so much.
I'm gonna miss you too.
In my mind, it still looks like this. Okay, this is when things get a little bit more tricky with Hidden Figures. Catherine, Dorothy, and Mary are not equally affected by the turning points of the common goal of getting the man into space. Let's take a look at the most obvious example of this.
Catherine did manage to calculate a few decimal points further than that hunk of metal.
Well, I will take every digit you got. Be sure to thank her for me.
Catherine is in the action, whereas Mary and Dorothy are bystanders elsewhere. Still, seeing Mary's and Dorothy's points of view adds to the drama and theme of this story. The writers have clearly understood the rules and shaped them to serve the story they wish to tell. Hot tip, you can do this too. Write a protagonist story camouflaged by multiple characters or vice versa. As long as your craft choices do not take away from your story's structural and thematic integrity, you should be golden. Now here's my mash. Reunited by the murder of a NASA engineer, 3 female astronauts seek justice on the alien mermaid responsible. What? Okay, gotta trust past JC. And the character importance will look like this. Until the next MASH, bye! What is another expectation for what's my story about today? And Aquamarine. Ooh, that's gonna be hard to say. But Claire and Haley want Raymond to fall in love with Aqua. I can't say her name. Oh my gosh. Everyone, guess what? I have been doing this Movie Mash channel for 1 year. 1 year. I think I'm gonna do it for another year, maybe more. We'll see. Subscribe.